But in order to switch over from a 2-stroke to a 4-stroke, it's a problem. So Galactica says a big problem with 4-strokes, aside from the cost, is the extra weight over a 2-stroke, which Brian comes in on top of that and says twin 250 Mercury Optimax Pro X's twin 4-strokes would be too heavy on my transom and could cause my scuppers to go near or below the waterline, creating a risk of sinking the boat. So it's not just about disparaging 2-stroke engines. These comments also disregard many boats that were designed before 4-strokes were mainstream. So the weight is a big problem. There's a lot of older boats out there. So if you ban a 2-stroke and you've got a boat that can't support the weight of a 4-stroke, then you're basically telling this guy he's got to buy a new boat, and that's pretty ridiculous. Oh my goodness, you have to buy a whole new boat because you can't afford to put 4-strokes on your boat. I mean, if you ain't got the money to put the 4-strokes on there, then you ain't got the money to buy a new boat, and there's probably nothing wrong with the boat. So why would you take a boat and put it in a graveyard and just let it rot because you want to get rid of 2-strokes? So I think that there's kind of a disconnect there. But again, you're not going to see this in most places. There's not going to be a ban. There's only going to be a ban in places like California where it is politics. But the weight issue, I think, is a bigger one than you would think about. And it's probably something that a lot of people don't think about unless you are in the space and you have to do this. So a lot of sailboaters or small engine runners, like people that have, say, little small John boats or canoes or stuff like that, and they transport their boat and they have to carry the engine. So like, let's say you live on a sailboat and you push your dinghy in the water and you got to put the engine on there in order to run around wherever you're going. The weight difference between a 4-stroke, like take a 9.9 engine. The 9.9 2-stroke is going to weigh 40, 50 pounds less than the 9.9 4-stroke. So in order for someone to be able to pick up and carry and manhandle an engine that weighs, 100 some pounds, opposed to like a 60, 70 pound, which for some people is already going to be like a struggle. It's going to be a struggle for some people to be able to pick the engine up and then move it around to stick it down on the back of their boat or put it in their car, whatever it may be. So I think there is that aspect too that a lot of people aren't thinking about, that the benefit of the less components inside the 2-stroke and the functionality of a combustion engine in a 2-stroke versus a 4-stroke is the weight. And if you have to carry your engine and remove it, put it in your car, whatever it may be, and that's just the way you use your boat, like we're saying, John boats, canoes, stuff like that, and you are going onto rivers and stuff like that, and you transport it, that's a big problem. So I think that's what Galactica is talking about, is having to actually pick up the engine and move it around. And now you're telling this person that they basically can't have an engine or run it because of the weight. So should they be banned? I'm never a fan of banning anything. Honestly, I think being an American and living in the U.S., I'm big on the Constitution. I think people should be free to do what they want, when they want, no matter what. And that is like, you get the good with the bad on the same side. So, in order for you to get to do what you want to do, and for me to get to do what I want to do, that means it has to be a blanket statement. And so, if you go start telling people what they can and can't do and banning things based on whatever it may be, usually politics, then once you lose your rights, you don't get them back. So once you give up a certain freedom, you ain't going to get it back. So if you start banning stuff, it's going to be a problem. So personally, I do not think that they should be banned. I think that you should just let them die out. That's just what it is. Or make them better. I think there's multiple different ways about stuff. I think with the science and the actual research and development, take hydraulic fluid, for example. So if you look at hydraulic fluid, it's basically a pollutant and it's a problem. But if you look at like Power Pole and Sea Star and some of these other systems, they use a biodegradable hydraulic fluid. So if there is a leak, the hydraulic fluid or the hydraulic oil basically is biodegradable. So it's fine if you have a leak and it all dumps out. There's no problem. It's not a pollutant. So couldn't you design an oil the same way with whatever properties that you need? I'm not an oil engineer or anything like that, but you would think that would be a possible thing. a lot of it has to do with money. So obviously companies want to sell more products. They want to sell more engines. They want for people to spend more money for them to make more money. But I think that would be a way better solution than, banning them or just letting them die out, because again, going back to some of the problems of the old boats and the weight and that kind of thing, even if you just stop selling 2-strokes and you only sell 4-strokes and all the 2-strokes die out, there's that group of people that still have that problem to resolve. So, and I don't think it's a small group of people either. I think that there is a large number of boats out there that have 2-strokes that if you put a 4-stroke on it, it's going to have a weight problem. And then also the problem of, trying to carry a 60-pound engine versus a 120-pound engine is that's a legitimate problem no matter who you are. Being in shape doesn't really mean that you have the back muscles to manhandle a 120-pound engine and throw it around. Depending on the size, obviously, a 2.5 is going to weigh a lot less, and that's not really a problem. But some of the bigger ones, you get into a 9.9 or a 15, yeah, those are going to get pretty heavy. So being able to take those on and off the boat and transport them, you got that problem there. Now, if you enjoyed this clip, you can watch the full episode over here, or you can watch another one over here.